you learn about financial trading. You learn obviously Python from the beginning. You start with Excel, which is something that I've always been very familiar with. It was a very good journey for me, to be honest. It was a very smooth transition. I already knew Python, so that wasn't hard, but learning a lot about the financial trading, a lot of the stuff, some of the concepts like, you know, the roll returns and futures, that was completely new to me. My name is Thomas Orgler. I used to be an engineer, an industrial systems engineer back in the day. But I also did economics back in school, and that's what got me really tied into statistics, just on the systems engineering and the econometric side. I had a lot of involvement with statistics, and I always wanted to leverage, you know, just back in the day, what we call just regression, right? The typical multivariate regression approach, logistics regressions, etc., into, you know, financial trading, etc. And I never got to do that, to be honest. I ended up going the engineering route, and eventually I pivoted to IT, and what I do now is analytics and IT. I work for a defense contractor, Booz Allen Hamilton, and primarily do automations for them, and a little bit on the app development side as well. And you know, when I started kind of just figuring out, I was learning Python on my own, and I just wanted to learn more about how I can start leveraging Python towards data science, you know, ML/AI, and how I can, you know, start working with that in the financial markets. I ran into Quantopian, and then from Quantopian, I learned about you guys. So yeah, you know, I'm always trying to learn new stuff. And try to apply, you know, just learn new things and apply it to see how I can increase the amount of passive income that I can generate. I've built a small business, a boutique business in real estate, with long-term and short-term rentals as well, and financial trading seemed like a great thing to add for passive income as well. Just on the hobby side, I mean, learning is definitely one of my big things. I'm always trying to learn what's new in the world, on the tech side. And my dog is going crazy over here. Yeah, and I mean, I love mountain biking. I love paddleboarding. I live in San Diego. It's a beautiful place with a lot of nature. So definitely like the outdoors. So right now, I'm actually doing two things. One is because of COVID, I haven't really had a chance, to be 100% frank, to really start, you know, building my algo trading business, or my fund per se. But I did leverage a lot of the learnings into my real estate side, because you know, through the program, and this might be something different from what you'll hear from others, but through the program, right, you learn about a lot about infrastructure deployment, right? You learn about you know, APIs. You guys went through a lot with the interactive brokers, and I use TD Ameritrade. But while going through the process of building your fund and you know, building your algorithms, you obviously need to learn how to plug your data, like grab data and send data, you know, through an API. And I started using, like, researching APIs for Airbnb data and just MLS data, which is the I forget what it's called, but exactly. But it's just the listing service, a multi-listing service, something like that here in the United States, in order to run essentially analysis on what are the best zip codes in the United States for, you know, short-term rental investments. And that's how I found, I'll keep it confidential, but I found a very good niche for, you know, Airbnb investments, and I started growing my business in that area, and it's been generating returns in excess of 60% ROI, which I'm very happy with. And that's like reliably, right? With not that much risk, to be quite frank. Even through COVID, I'm making that level of return. So once out of COVID, it should be even more.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
once COVID subsides a bit and the markets, well, probably now with this crazy election, we can breathe a bit. I should be able to start, building a little bit, putting more emphasis on building my fund, which is definitely what I want to do in the next, year or two. To be honest, I always wanted to. It's always I've always wanted to go into investment banking. And honestly, like I did engineering because I wanted to go into investment banking, which sounds counterintuitive, but maybe in India it's similar. I'm originally from Brazil.
Okay.
And in Brazil, and you tell me if India is similar, but in Brazil, if you do engineering, people know you're you're smart, you're highly qualified, and they will hire you even though you did engineering into investment banking, things that are very competitive and more more of a meritocracy, right? Because they know you can do it.
Right. Yeah,
But in the
absolutely.
United States, if you do engineering, specifically industrial systems engineering, which in Brazil is like one of the hardest and most applicable engineerings, you do industrial systems engineering in the United States, well, the people hiring you are all manufacturing companies. And it was interesting surprise for me because I was clueless. I was just a 17-year-old kid that came to the United States. I got a almost full ride scholarship to come to the United States, and I didn't know any better. And but while I was doing my engineering course, industrial systems engineering is a very comprehensive and well-rounded course, like major, let's put it that way. So you learn anything from programming to statistics to optimization to to supply chain management to accounting to economics to anything. And so you come out of a very strong base. And the point I'm trying to say is, through my courses in econometrics and statistical analysis, which was very intensive, like black belt Six Sigma stuff, I was already thinking like, holy crap, if I can apply these things to predict the market, wow, this could be a big thing, right? And obviously that is no news, right? You got Renaissance Technologies, you got Ray Dalio that have all done similar things from a long time ago, like since the 80s or whatnot. But it has always kind of piqued my interest to do that, and it just so happened that obviously when I graduated, I needed to make money, so I ended up going the manufacturing route because it was the path of least resistance. And but I'm at a point now where I've finally shifted gears in my career towards data science, software development, and even though I might not necessarily want to work or need to work for a trading company, I have capital and I want to. I just love the idea of generating passive income, and like I mentioned before, I always thought of this as an opportunity for passive income since back in my college days, to be honest. So I've been trading since after college. I learned a lot of things like CAPM in college, just the whole statistical arbitrage, but very simple statistical arbitrage with like your high alphas, etc. Because I did do like a minor in finance as well, and yeah, so like during college, towards the end of college, I didn't have that much money then, so it's like hard to trade. But after college, I started making more money and I started trading. And that's when I started, I read a book that really, really opened my eyes called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm assuming you've heard of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
From Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah, and the whole idea of passive income was something that was very attractive to me. And I started playing with real estate and it was very successful. And just capital started coming in, and that's where trading really began for me. But when I really got into algo trading was when I was working for this company as an analyst. It was a commodities trading company actually, and I was trying to, essentially, it's a family company, and I was seeing myself as potentially taking over, down the road, one of the executives of the company that worked on the trading side, on the hedging side, but actually he did a lot of trading, and sometimes he lost a lot of money, sometimes he made a lot of money, right? And I was just thinking like, hey, like I was very close to the CFO of the company, and I was saying like, hey, if we can do, an approach that is algorithmic based. We don't need to. We can essentially mitigate our risks just through volume and through just more data intensive analysis, and not just a human being making those decisions. And that's when I really started learning Python, and that's when I started playing with Quantopian, which now I think they shut down their automated trading platform. But through Quantopian, I think somehow I had heard about EPAT. I'm not sure if it was an advertisement or because Google knew I was searching a lot of this stuff and Google suggested EPAT. But yeah, once I learned about EPAT, I dug in a lot more, and I made some calls. I talked to some of the professors and asked a lot of questions, and I even talked to some of the other alumni. And it seemed like a great fit. It seemed like a great opportunity to learn something from the ground. And that's exactly what happened. It was a very solid, strong program. And it's honestly, it's as good as the effort you put into the program, right? And by learning, by putting a lot of effort into it, and getting in touch with professors, with my support manager, when I had questions, was very helpful towards building this foundation of now what I have, which is a pretty much a data science foundation, which allows me not only to do financial trading, but also look into other buckets of information that could further generate my income capability. And that's why I honestly believe that with the right tools, you, myself, Tom, or you, or whoever that takes the program, has the ability to apply those skills, has the ability to apply that knowledge, and be able to, through their own capacity, generate returns, and not have to depend on these other people that, they make an upfront fee or a back end fee from you no matter what, right? So
exactly.
Or a backloaded fee. I mean, so like, what's the point, right? So much rather just trust myself, not have to pay those fees, and especially now in the $0 commission environment, like this is pretty cool, right? In the world that we're in right now. So a lot of doors have opened, and a lot of doors have allowed us to move towards this direction. I really liked EPAT. You got EPAT really focused really well on the how do I put this? Just serial data, data science aspect of it, right? Because that's literally what stock prices are. And not only that, but you also learned a lot about the financial markets. And what I really liked about EPAT is how there's so much hype these days about options trading, and you got a descending triangle, it's gonna be a bullish breakout, and all this silly things. You got to do your Bollinger Bands, and or follow the 50-day moving average, etc. And it's funny because, like, obviously we learn in EPAT using some of these terminologies, but we very quickly dispel the theory / idea that following these patterns that are usually abundantly used by all these traders, right? We dispel the idea that those are profitable, because when you run a back test on any of these patterns, it's a losing strategy. I mean, like, across the board, right? So I really like the fact that you could really understand quickly through the algorithm who is speaking nonsense or not, right? Because you can just run a quick back test on any of the theories that just these typical hype kind of traders do. But really a back end, right? You learn about financial trading. You learn, obviously, Python from the beginning. You start with Excel, which is something that I've always been very familiar with. It was a very good journey for me, to be honest. It was a very smooth transition. I already knew Python, so that wasn't hard. But learning a lot about the financial trading, a lot of some of the concepts, like the roll returns and futures, that was completely new to me. I did use TD Ameritrade, so I didn't put much emphasis on the interactive brokers API sessions, but knowing that also was great. Just the infrastructure class was amazing as well, where it really taught you how to build the right infrastructure for a high frequency trading fund. And whether you want to do high frequency or not, right? Because if you want to do low or medium frequency, you, the course, the professor of the course also taught us how to approach that, right? All you need is a cloud setup, and you're done. So yeah, honestly, you guys did a great job at just very strong insights in every section of that huge elephant that is financial trading and algorithmic trading. So EPAT is a very well-rounded and yet specific, right? A core, like a program, because it's very specific towards algorithmic trading, but it's also very well rounded around everything around algorithmic trading. But all of the other programs I've taken were more broad. Like Agile is obviously a very broad aspect. Maybe the DevOps Agile certification I did was more related to sort of software engineering, but you got Tableau, which is obviously specific to the software. And that's the catch, right? Tableau is specific to the software. You got Python that's maybe the typical Python courses you take are introductory, right? And they might be broad, but in reality they're specific just towards data wrangling and ETL, right? But what was good about the course was that it was not just specific, it was very well rounded too on how it touched on every single facet of algorithmic trading. I'll answer this not just for my sake, but for any other students or future students' sake. The support manager system is excellent with EPAT. Honestly, like, it didn't matter when I sent the message, Lakshmi was always there to help me. She was my support manager, and she did great. And I think she was even like having a baby in the middle of all that. She still was like around. I knew I had like another support manager for like a month or so, or a couple months or so, but she came back, and she was still very helpful with everything. So what I would say is that having that human side, that human touch of where you can ask questions and she will put you in touch with the professor and help answer those questions. There's always that human touch to help you if you get lost, because obviously I'm in the United States. The course is in India, right? And I can't watch the course at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. whenever the time was, here live. So I would always have to watch it not live, and then have to ask questions later. But having that support manager, that support system was a pillar towards setting me up for success in the course. So I'm very happy about that. And if you're asking more on a technical side, if there's anything that I particularly enjoyed about the course, I really like how hands-on it was. It forced you to really, dig in and get your hands dirty, right? You need to code your Python code. You need to build, a turtle algorithm or whatever, a moving average algorithm. You need to make those things happen, and I honestly really enjoyed that, because it allows you to learn by doing. So I think that was a huge plus in the course as well. What I would say, and then I'll be very real with my advice, and it's cautionary and motivational at the same time. Algo trading, like, there's a lot of hype in trading right now, and in trading as a human being can be very hard, right? My biggest challenge, to be honest, is my emotions and taking control of my emotions. And just like trading discretionary, manually, there could be gains and losses. There also could be gains and losses, obviously, through algorithmic trading, right? In some ways, it's almost riskier because of just the fat finger, a line on the code, and the next thing you know, you're you're pulling all your money in margin accidentally because you didn't set a good risk profile. So there are a lot of caveats, but if you know what you're doing, and that's a big if, right? You need to know what you're doing, and that's where the program really helps you. It helps you know what you're doing. So once you know what you're doing, let me put it that way, with the program, you can mitigate a lot of that risks. I would see the program as an insurance policy, right? You learn what you need to do so that you don't fall into those holes that most people would fall on when they're getting started, and those pitfalls. So by doing that, you can not get hurt by those pitfalls. It'll accelerate your ability to generate returns. And the point I was trying to make is, trading by yourself manually is a very emotionally stressful undertaking, as you probably know, right? You're taking a loss, and the next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, I need to get out of this position now. And always, right, the moment you get out of that position, that's when the market just starts going exactly the opposite, and you would have profited, right? It's always like that, and you end up, buying at the high and selling at the low. And that's where I like algorithmic trading, is because you set the rules. As a trader, you're supposed to have a trading plan, and you're supposed to follow that trading plan like a robot, right? We can't. But if you build an algorithm that follows that trading plan, that algorithm is a robot. That algorithm will follow the trading plan without emotion, and you can really be able to measure that success. And now imagine yourself, and I know this is a very long answer to a very simple question, but it's important to say this. Now imagine yourself building 20, 30 different strategies, and through robotic approaches without emotion. Now you're diversified, right, in a strategy standpoint. So, and without emotion. So that to me is the biggest power of algorithmic trading. Long story short, is that there are risks. EPAT will help you understand those risks and not fall on those traps or those pitfalls. And the biggest challenge in trading is emotion and controlling that. And algorithmic trading will essentially eliminate you from falling under that emotional pitfall.